So hello, welcome to Simply Living PEI, everybody. We are going to do something I have never done before, and I've always wanted to try it. And when that beautiful pork loin sale was on, we decided now is the time to give this a go. We are going to try and make our own pea meal bacon. So, I've got everything here. Why not give it a try, right? So we're actually going to do pea meal, but we're also going to do corned pork. Yeah, I know that sounds weird. So we've all had corned beef, we've all had pastrami, Montreal smoked meat. They're all basically the same with slightly different flavors. But you can do the same process as you do on corned beef on pork loin. And that's what we're going to try. Now, I love... I really actually shouldn't say I love it, but I do really love pea meal bacon. There's something about the flavor. So I figured, why not give it a try? Because pea meal bacon is expensive. But when you can get a pork loin like this, we paid $22.25 for this pork loin. It is relatively lean, which is perfect. And yeah, that's what we're going to try. So let's make the brine, get this process started. It's going to take us a few days. Okay, so we have all our ingredients out. We've got our 2 pots of water measured and ready to go. We have our recipes. Let's get this brine ready so we can get this show on the road. Okay, so we're going to do the pea meal in this pot and the corned pork in this one. Now, the pea meal has 12 cups of water, so 3 liters. Now, the recipe for this, it does call for a lemon. Now, I don't have any lemon, so I'm going to put a little bit of lemon juice. I'm also going to kind of mix 2 recipes together because this recipe has got fabulous spices. And this recipe has got all the individual spices, and it uses dark brown sugar, whereas the one we're actually using has maple syrup. But I'm actually going to put the dark brown sugar in because I like the flavor of the dark brown sugar instead of maple. I'm not a fan of maple cured pea meal, so let's get the brown sugar in. 1 cup of brown sugar, 1/2 cup of pickling salt. There it is. That's why I like this measuring cup. It actually has the measurements on the inside as well. There we go. Now, this here, it's called prog powder or pink salt or curing salt. It's all the same stuff, okay? Now, if you're going to properly brine and keep things like this safe, you do need to use pickling salt. So let me go and grab my measuring cup. Measuring spoon. So 2 teaspoons of the pink salt. 1, 2. Where is my mustard seed? There it is. So 2 tablespoons of mustard seed. That should almost empty this one out. We'll have to add this to the shopping list. And 2 teaspoons of black peppercorn. Now I have 3 rather large cloves of garlic in there. Now they say pressed. Basically that just means squish them. Now it only calls for 3 whole cloves. I actually love cloves, so that's the recipe. I put 2 more. And finally, 2 whole bay leaves. Those ones are like partial, so we have 2 partials and 1 little. Now it does say, like I said, 1 lemon cut into wedges, but we're just going to put a little bit of lemon juice in it instead. that last little tiny bit. Why not? That was the last of that bottle, so there was maybe a tablespoon in there. Now, I'm doing it a little bit different than the recipe because in the recipe, you only put half the water and you let the whole thing kind of go. I decided to put it all in there and just let the whole thing cool on its own. So we're going to turn this on. We'll let this one start doing its thing because the whole idea is you have the hot brine with 4 cups of water, add the remaining 8 cups, and then it cools it right down, and then you can immediately put your pork loins in. But I'm kind of just putting it all at once because I've got both brines that need to cool. All right, let's go to pot number 2. Okay, now this is actually a corned pork recipe that I found. It seems so easy. Now this one doesn't specifically say pickling salt, but it does call for 1.5 cups of salt. But I do have the sea salt, so we're gonna use this because we do really need to use this up. So let's put some sea salt. Hey, 1.5 cups of salt. It only calls for a tablespoon of brown sugar. Seems like nothing, doesn't it? It says a tablespoon. Oops, missed a bit. Tablespoon it is. Next we have 2 tablespoons of pickling spice. So if you don't know, that flavor you have from corned beef is the pickling spice. It has everything in it. So we have 1 large clove of garlic in there. Now I didn't slice it, I just kind of smashed it up a bit. We're going to add 6 bay leaves this time. Now it says 1/2 ounce of the pink salt. I'll have to figure out exactly how much that is. Just a moment. So it is 1.5 teaspoons of the pink salt. Now for this recipe, this one is optional, but I want to cure these, so I'm going to do that. Now last thing that goes in this one is actually an onion. But the onion does not go in until after the brine is actually cooked and cooled. Technically the garlic doesn't go in then either, but I kind of forgot, so we're going to cook the garlic with the brine. Alrighty folks, these will take a little while to cook and cool, and then we will be back to put all this together. The brine is done. Now to let them cool for a few hours, and then we'll get these in the fridge. I so can't wait to taste these. Woohoo! These are our pork loins, guys. All right, now I've got 2 bowls here with big freezer bags in them. And I think, let's start with the one we're going to use for the pea meal first. I'm actually going to cut it into 4 pieces because we don't need huge pea meals. It's just the 2 of us, right? And if we have company, to be honest, there's more than enough. So this pork loin too is pretty lean. There's not a lot of fat on it, so I didn't have to trim anything. Like perfect. In the bags. This one's actually a little bit bigger. You know, let's cut this chunk into 3. Because I apparently did not measure that very well. Oh gosh, that's more than enough for the pair of us. Look at that. Woohoo! But this guy is the one that we're going to turn into a corned pork, but we're going to take 1 more chunk off. There we go. Swap out bowls. There we go. And now for the corned pork. Let's see, this chunk here is a little fatty. So we're gonna do this one all by itself. This is more the butt end of the loin. So if you ever looked at a pork loin, there's the leaner end, which is the front, and the fattier end, which is the back. What do you think, guys? 4? Because we've never done this before. Let's do 4. There we go. Oh yeah, that's more than enough. Okay, let me go wash up. All right, we are starting with the pea meal first. So this is the pea meal brine. You guys can't really see. Let me turn you around a little bit. There we go. Okay, we're gonna start with the pea meal first. Pretty much this entire pot is gonna go into this bag. Spices, everything. One bag done. Alrighty. Now it's on for the corned pork. Okay, time for the corned pork. Now don't forget the pork did call for, sorry, the corned pork did call for that onion. So I've got that in there. Grab all the good spices. Okay. Now, this is where the patience comes in. So the pea meal in the fridge, minimum 5 days. They say 5 to 7, so kind of really depends. Now these are smaller pieces, so I'm gonna try 5 days. We'll see how it comes out. Now the corned pork is the same as corned beef, 8 to 12 days in the fridge. Don't forget, you're curing these. Don't worry, they're not gonna go funky. Okay? All right, so in the fridge they go. We'll jiggle the bags around a little bit over the next few days and we'll see how this comes out. I'm not gonna lie, it smells really good in here right now. We are halfway through the brining on our pea meal bacon. And you can actually have a, I'm gonna start that sentence again. There's a noticeable change in how it looks. So that's halfway. This is our corned pork. Same thing. There is a noticeable change in how it looks. So what I've been doing every day is kind of messing with the bags, making sure all the sides of the pork are always in the brine. But 2.5 more days and we're gonna try that pea meal. I honestly really can't wait. Guess what day it is? It is pea meal day. And I am not gonna lie, I am thoroughly impressed with how this came out. But let's pull one out and we'll show you how it looks. You ready? Oh, it even smells like a good classic pea meal. Check that out, guys. All right, let me get some paper towel down in this tray and we'll actually pull one out. And I'm just gonna close the bag back up. My luck, I'll spill it. Now, if you grew up in Ontario, you know what pea meal is. We'll talk about where it came from and stuff later on. But this is a brined pea meal. And it smells like phenomenal. All right. Let's get a little bit of cornmeal on here and I'll show you what it actually looks like when you buy it in the store. Now I only have this slightly more fine pea meal. I should be doing this in a bowl. A smart person would do this in a bowl. But traditionally, when you buy pea meal in a store, looks like that. So we're gonna taste test this, and we're gonna see just how well it came out. Of course, I put way too much pea meal on this tray. Alrighty, let's try this out. But we'll get the super sharp knife in. And look at the color. It brined all the way through. This makes me happy. So I'm gonna slice this up as best I can. I should be able to get 5 slices of this without doing too much. Alrighty. Alright, so the last slice is wonky, but I expected that. Let's go to the stove. Okay guys, so pea meal is very lean. As you can tell, there's not a lot of fat on these pork loins, which is perfect. So they will slowly cook for me in a little bit of butter. There's a little bit of fat that's on them. It will render out. That's not a big deal. Probably should have used one pan bigger, but that's okay. This little piece is just a little piece. All right, I'm gonna let this cook. And taste test time. Well, everyone, I can safely tell you right now that this smells so good. It's ready. Taste test time. Well, I am interjecting myself into the middle of my own video because I forgot to actually tell you guys where pea meal actually comes from. Now, if you grew up in Ontario, specifically Southern Ontario, you know what pea meal is. We all grew up with it, and you know, it was like the treat. You know, I don't know. Well, either way, we all grew up with it. So, but history. Now, I've got my screen over here, so you're going to see me turn because I'm going to forget names and days. But a little bit of Toronto history. Or if you're in Toronto, it's Toronto, whatever. So a little bit of the Toronto history. Toronto actually used to be known as Hogtown. Now, it was a pork processing powerhouse. Basically the best way to describe it. And there were so many pork processors in Toronto, basically it got the name Hogtown. So there are some places, believe it or not, they're hard to find. Now, if you're in Toronto, you'll have to tell me for sure because I remember just seeing the odd thing and the references to Hogtown. This is where pea meal comes from. Now, in the Victorian era, there was one pork producer. He was a pretty good one, big pork producer. His name was William Davis. That's why I keep looking over here. So in the early 20th century, William Davis basically invented pea meal bacon. Now, the way it worked was he would brine and cure the bacon, the pork, which is always made with a lean pork loin, just so you know. And he would roll it in ground yellow peas, the dried yellow peas. The same yellow peas, actually, that I have in that jar that we use for baking, because when I cook them and stuff, yeah, that's a whole other story. We're not going to go there again. But the reason why it was called pea meal was because he ground the yellow peas, rolled the loin in it, and it basically helped preserve it longer. I mean, it was kind of handy. Now, right around World War I is when they changed it from peas to cornmeal. Now, the reason why, I admit I can't find, so that's all right. But what I'll do is I'm going to link the wiki page all about pea meal bacon. That way you can actually take a look. Now, Canadian back bacon or Canadian bacon, which you can find in lots of places. Guess what, guys? If you've never had pea meal, you've probably had it. Confusing, isn't it? Canadian bacon is smoked pea meal without the cornmeal on the outside. It's still brined, and then they smoke it. So, there you go. That is the history on pea meal. So, I'm going to let you get back to the rest of the video. It's tender. Ready? What do you think? Wow.
Yeah, lower salt
Definitely lower salt.
than grocery.
You like how it tastes?
Tastes good.
Freddie approved. Okay. Pea meal taste test, 100%. Oh my gosh. So, if you grew up, like I said, in Ontario and you grew up with this stuff, a lot of the commercial stuff's got that funky aftertaste, like Fred and I were talking about that. This stuff, it just has that nice brined kind of, I don't know. It doesn't have a funky aftertaste. Best way for me to describe it. Now, I'm gonna roll the rest of these, dry them all off, roll them in the pea meal, get out the food saver so I can vacuum seal them. Yeah, pea meal bacon now. Can't wait, a few more days, we're actually gonna try the corn pork. I'm not gonna lie, this actually has made me really happy. Okay, so I've got them all out, dried and cornmealed up. Now I have a pretty fine cornmeal. Normally you would put a coarser ground cornmeal, but I cook with this and I wasn't about to buy two different kinds of cornmeal. Okay, it is food saver time. Okay, it is food saver time. I don't use this guy as much as I should, but we are going to preserve, and I'll show you how these are going to go in the freezer. This makes me really, really happy. Today is day 10. It is time to get the corned pork out and cook our first one. See how it tastes. Alrighty guys, here it is. So the pea meal, like you've already seen, seriously passed the taste test. Yep, that definitely smells like corned meat. Okay, let's get one of these out. I should have the other tongs, but they're dirty, sorry. I'm gonna pull all these out and put them on our board here. That way we can take a good look at them and see how they came out. Now I'm going to dry package these the same way we did the cornmeal, the pea meal. I'm not gonna pack these in brine, kind of like you get them at the grocery store. And when I put one of these in to cook, I'll tell you why. So these actually have that same texture of corned beef. I mean, I have to admit, this is kind of cool. Let me get this last one out, if I can. There we go. That's a lot of brine. All right, let me get this out of the way. Yeah, these have the same texture, that same rainbowy effect that you can get on corned beef. Oh my gosh, these things. The smell, by the way, the smell is phenomenal. Just saying. All right, let's get one of these in a pot. Okay guys, so what I've got is one of the pork loins. I just put an onion in there, and that's just clean water. Now when I make corned beef though, I always add extra pickling spice because the commercial ones, I don't think they have enough. But I'm gonna put a little bit in just because I can. Just a little bit, like a teaspoon. Okay, so these ones right here, I'm gonna put those in the food saver, dry them off a little bit. And they're gonna go right in the freezer. But this one, it's gonna cook. Now corned beef, I usually, when I make a boiled dinner, I usually cook corned beef for like 3 hours. I mean, I may be overcooking, maybe undercooking, I have no idea. I cook it until it's tender enough for me. Now pork is more tender, so I'm starting this way early. If it's too early, big deal. I'll just shut it off, we'll warm it up later. But the pork, I'm gonna cook it probably about 2 hours and take a look and see what it's like. And then I'm not gonna put the cabbage and the potatoes in until then. So we're gonna be putting, we're gonna be putting the last, I think 3 farm carrots we have, 3 or 4 potatoes and some cabbage. So basically we're making a boiled dinner. So actually kind of really looking forward to this taste test. This is official taste test time. So I haven't put the veggies in the pot or anything. I wanted to give it a try. Now, it smells good. Wow. So now, obviously with corned beef, it's a lot redder. That's part of the brining, part of that pink salt, that Prague salt that we put in. But flavor-wise, this is phenomenal. I would say this is an experiment that seriously worked. Now, I am putting this back in the pot because we're still going to cook the cabbage. And we're going to put some potatoes and a couple of carrots in there. And it'll finish and it'll tenderize more. Well, you know what I meant. It'll get more tender as it finishes the cooking. I mean, it's 100% cooked, but I'm not going to lie, I kind of had to taste it. That's our saga on corned meat and pea meal. Oh my, did that ever come out so good? I'm beyond happy. Now it takes a while. We left the pea meal in its brine for a week. Sorry. Yeah, a week. And we left the corned pork in its brine for 10 days. Now, the recipe said 10 to 12 days. They're smaller pieces that we made. And to be honest, the next time I'll probably put extra pickling spice because I admit I like it that way. That corned pork is not overdone. So some corned beef and stuff, they're way too brined. This was fabulous. So we now officially have 2 more dinners, I suppose, but basically 2 more items to add to our repertoire. Anyway, like I said, it's not something for everybody. If that's not something that you feel like doing, don't do it. Don't even worry about it. I did it because I was curious. I wanted to have some fun. I like pea meal. I liked corned meat. Well, mostly corned beef, but you can actually do that in anything. So if you're a hunter, venison, moose, stuff like that, if you're not a hunter and you see a pork loin for a wicked good sale, give it a shot because trust me, you will not be disappointed. So that's it from us, guys. I mean, we've had a busy week and I'm actually kind of gonna relax for the evening. So we're gonna be putting some potatoes, some cabbage, and some carrots in that pot to let it do that last little bit of cook. And we're gonna relax this evening. So we will see you next time. And thanks for coming out as we continue on with our Simpler Life on PEI. Bye for now.